and senior coach John Longmire has been good enough to join us from Sydney via Zoom as we welcome you in, John. Gee, it must have hit hard how much it hurt when Buddy Franklin went down last week, given how fit you'd got him and how good he looked.
Yeah, there's no question, Hutchie. I mean, he was incredible, Nick, before that last game last year in the final game of the SCG. He was really fit, worked hard, got back, kicked 4 goals, 3. And then over summer was in great condition as well. He had a super off-season. And unfortunately, the knee just after Christmas, and then he got back in a great condition again, was training really well. And I don't think I've really seen him in better condition. And unfortunately, this was his opposite leg. So really bad luck for Bud and the amount of work that he's done.
We're having a look at him now on screen, John. You're confident we'll see him again this year?
Yeah, we are, Craig. I mean, we can only go on what we've seen so far, and in regards to his ability to come back from injury. And you know, whilst we've said this could be, this is a decent tear, there's no question about that. We're not going to rush him. We're still confident that he'll get back and play some footy for us this year.
You might have heard us play the grab from Andrew Russell, the Carlton fitness head, who said that he needs to lose, or if he would suggest he loses 2 or 3 kilos and trims down. Do you think that's true? And were you surprised to hear some comments from a rival fitness coach?
I think most people would assume that it's not really appropriate for people from other clubs to make public comment on players from other clubs. I think that should be, I guess, a given in the industry. So it was a bit surprising that he said it, but I can only comment on what I've seen, and that is he's been in great condition, and I don't think he's looked better the last 3 times he's come back from injury, and this was no different.
And yet you did ask the AFL, both whether Lance and Sam Reid could use some of your facilities in isolation appropriately during lockdown. Are you disappointed the AFL knocked you back on that request?
Yes, Caro. And I guess a number of clubs would have been similar, that we were concerned that whilst players were training, particularly ones with some sort of injury record or injury history, that still technically means they're in rehab. Only because they're training doesn't mean they ever really leave rehab. You've still got to do a lot of work on injury prevention, and being able to do weights at home is not really appropriate, and particularly under the supervision that they're normally associated with, which is under the professionals that they couldn't get access to. So we were mindful of that, particularly the ones with, as I said, injury history. Unfortunately, was knocked back, and we don't know how much it contributed to it. Whether it was age, whether it was injury history, I guess we'll never know.
Inevitably, when he does get injured, Lance, talk turns to the contract, 3 years to go, and whether it's been value for money. Where does that sit with you now, and do you get frustrated with the talk?
It's pretty simple for me, Caro. It's he's been enormous value for us. When we recruited him, we wanted to play in grand finals. Obviously, we got to a couple of grand finals, but we also wanted to make sure that he helped the transition of our younger players, and that was always at the forefront of our mind. We knew we were losing champions like Adam Goods and Ryan O'Keefe and a number of other players during that era, and we were keen for Lance to help that and help buffer that to some extent with our younger group coming through, which he's been able to do. Tommy McCartan over the last couple of years has played centre-half forward alongside Lance, learned an enormous amount from him. The guys that have been able to train with him and play with him over the last few years have really benefited. So I don't get too drawn into that, other than the fact that we're really confident that he's still got some good footy to play for us.
John, there was a bit of frustration in your voice from the comments from Andrew Russell. Is it something that you would or have addressed with Carlton? Have you made it known you were displeased with that?
No, I don't think so, Kane. I mean, I don't think it's worth commenting too much on it. I mean, everyone's got their own opinions on it, and I think that we'll leave it at that.
What have you learned out of the Joe Daniher situation? Do you feel like the way that you went about it in the trade period was a responsible one, where you didn't overpay for an injury-prone player? And do you feel like you dodged a bullet somewhat with the latest on Joe's setback and the fact that he won't be up there to face you in round 2?
I've actually just made a comment about commenting on other players from other clubs, Kane. I'm not going to probably go down the path of commenting on Joe Danaher from Essendon. I don't think that's probably appropriate.
It played out publicly, though, that one. It was on the agenda from both parties. Joe wanted to go there, you wanted him. So it did play out a bit more publicly than that of Andrew Russell on Buddy.
Yeah, but we've moved on. We addressed it at the time, and we've moved on. It's not really relevant for us now.
John, you've had to let go some wonderful people from your footy club. People have been there for a generation in footy. But one of the more disappointed was assistant coach Ty Kennelly. I gather he was pretty shattered when told he wouldn't be part of the campaign this year. Where do you think Ty will finish up? And was that one of the tougher things you've had to do during COVID?
Yeah, there's been some terrible discussions, really heartbreaking discussions go on through this period from all clubs, Caro, and to be fair, right across the community, inside and outside of sport. That was no doubt a tough discussion, but as tough as it was for us to deliver it, it's not as tough as what it was for Tig in that particular case and his family and many other really good quality people that have maintained, still been stood down during this period. So it was terrible. It's something that we've got to be mindful of as an industry going forward. I get a bit disappointed when there's a lot of chat about how good the game will be when we come through all these cuts. I'm not sure about that. There's a lot of good people that contribute really well to the game as it's been, and it's a very heartbreaking thing to do.
One thing we're hearing is that your second-tier competition, the NEAFL, could and probably will go. How would you feel about fielding a club in the VFL? A team? Yeah,
that's obviously been floated around, Caro. We'd certainly look at that. It's all, though, linked in with list sizes. Is very important to be able to understand that. It's, I guess, from our point of view, if we had a list that was 35, for instance, just throwing up a number, that'd make it very difficult if we got injuries. Like last year in our list of 46, we have a list of 46. In the last couple of games, we fielded 10 players in our reserves. So where do those top-up players, those extra players come from, and the quality of those players if you get a really bad run of injuries like we had last year? So we have to be mindful of that. That's all part and parcel of the discussion. It's not just one element. As it sounds on the surface, playing in the VFL, or as you absolutely name it, the Eastern Seaboard competition, does sound appealing, but you have to really drill into the nitty-gritty of what the list sizes look like to make sure you've got a competitive team.
Just picking up on the theme of that, and also your point before about quality people leaving the game, do you worry that the quality of the product will be affected?
I'm certainly mindful of it if it goes too far, Craig. There's something that across the industry we're concerned about. We've already made allowances for significant cuts in our industry. We don't know what the soft cap is going forward. And if that's cut even further than what we predict, we're very concerned about it. Not only for some of the most talented players that you watch every week on your screens that people walk in the gate to see and how they get developed in an on-field and off-field sense, but also some of those younger kids that need an opportunity that take a couple of years. We're very concerned about that and hopeful that it doesn't impact the quality of the on-field product.
It's going to be a fascinating debate. It's a very difficult one for the industry to solve, and we're fortunate that strong voices like yours are among those at the table. Thanks for joining us tonight, John, and good luck for the game against the Bombers in round 2.
Thanks, everyone.